Hey, you! You're tuned in to the Skirts Up Show with Samantha and Melissa.
Join our mission to normalize failure, but still uncover the positives at every twist and turn.
Skirts up, but keep your panties on. What's up, Skirts Up Squad? It is Samantha.
And Melissa. Today, we're doing things a little bit different. You know that we've been hyping for a while now our involvement with the Five Hive. So instead of going into fails and our normal introductions, we just wanted you to have a full experience with them.
Yeah, so today you're going to get to meet the creator of the Five Hive, Megan, and to throw in a little bit of success, you get to meet a special guest that she has brought. We don't want to waste any of the time that we have for this episode, so we're just going to skirt on into what we have today.
Skirt on in, I like it.
Today we have with us Megan and Sean. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're really excited.
We are so excited. Megan, why don't you start off? Introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, my name is Megan Ward. I live in Athens, so just down the road from you.
Yes.
And I am a faculty member at the University of Georgia, so I do have a full-time job. But I'm also a Clarke County foster mom. I've been fostering for almost 7 years. I've had 111 kids. I'll have 112 tonight. There's a 15-year-old boy on his way to my house. And I am the director of the Five Hive. I'm also the director of Home and Five, their sister nonprofits. And I started fostering in 2017 because my nephew came into care in the state of Florida, and he needed a home. And so
that's what started it.
Yes. Now, I will say I have an aunt that fostered my whole life in Pennsylvania, but she fostered medically fragile children.
Okay.
And so I've always been around.
Yes.
And she's amazing at it, but I can't do that. I'm just not built for it.
That's a very special person.
Oh, yes. And she's had hundreds of medically fragile kids and teens.
Wow.
So I've always been around foster care.
Uh-huh.
And I always, in the back of my mind, wanted to do it. But when I met my wife, she told me there was 2 rules. She was never getting married and she was never having kids. For the record, we're married and we've had 112 kids. So I won.
I'm so glad you said that. I have a friend that's in the same boat.
Yeah. She told me that on our second date. And I was like, oh, I think I can be okay with that. And fast forward 14 years, I don't know what happened.
Oh, that is so funny. So what part brought you to start and create the Five Hive?
Okay, so I had been fostering for about 5 years at that point.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of silos in foster care that create really inequitable experiences for foster caregivers and youth and bio parents. And in conversations with DFACs, there's no way for them, because of policy, to break down those silos. So it was a conversation that was actually, it was supposed to be about a conference that I was going to. And the conversation went in this really strange left field. And I realized with my co-founder, her name is Kim, that we just weren't okay with the inequities that were existing. And we understood why DFACs couldn't solve the problems. But we sat back and we were like, well, if you can't solve it because of policy, then I can, because I don't have to follow policy.
Create your own policy.
Yep. And
Can you share with us what some of the inequities were? Just for people who might not understand. Some of us don't really know much about the foster system and what's going on.
And I'm not going to lie. I had no idea until Megan shared it with me. So yeah.
Okay. So the way that the state is set up is every county operates on its own, which is 159 different units operating. That's already insane. And then all the counties are broken into 14 regions. So we're Region 5, which is why we're called the Five Hive. And there's 12 counties in our region. And then within all those counties, there are families that are served by different agencies. So your silos are region, county, agency. And depending on what county you're with and what agency you're with, dictates your experience. So think about all those layers of different groups of humans, right?
So are you kind of saying the group that's in like the Alpharetta of Georgia is going to get kind of different resources than the
Sure.
group that's in like the Winder of Georgia?
Yes, but even like, okay, so if you were to think about Region 5, the Athens is going to get different resources than the Elberton,
Okay.
right? Because of our communities and our populations, right? So we had foster parents in our regions who were really resourced. They had access to trainings. They had access to mentor groups. They had access to resource closets. They had access to other foster parents. And then you had foster parents who believed that they were doing this completely by themselves. Like, I don't know another foster parent. I don't know where to go for mentorship or resources. I haven't met any other human doing what I'm doing. And that really baffled me because I was like, there's 400 families just in our region who are doing exactly what you are doing. If you need something, you should be able to pick up the phone and get a hold of one of those 400 families without question.
Yeah.
And you should know where to go for diapers. You should know where to go for formula. You should know where to go for clothes. You should know how to get your kid in school. Like, everybody should have the same information, the same access, the same resources, but they didn't. And so we were losing foster parents because if you feel like you're doing this really freaking hard thing by yourself, then why are you going to do it?
Yeah.
So we decided to create a hive of humans and create a swarm of support. And now we serve all 400 families, 800 youth. And everybody will say, well, I'm licensed through fill-in agency, but I'm part of the Five Hive.
Okay.
I live in Region 5.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like hard enough like raising your own kids and feeling like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Who can I ask? And then like having someone else's kids entirely who already has had some struggles.
Well, and for us, it's even more unique because you could get a kid at 11 p.m. and the next day they're like, okay, well, they need all their meds and you need to get them in school. And you're like, I don't even know this kid's last name.
Oh, no.
Like, step one, what's his last name that you just dropped off at my house? Like, like, how do you know how to find out a kid's last name or their social security number or your rights to put them in school or how to track down what medication they maybe should be on?
I would have assumed that all of that's handed to you.
It shouldn't even be legal to drop a kid off without all of that information.
Well, okay, so like here's a great example. I had a 3-year-old who was found wandering the highway. That was brought to my house one night. We didn't even know her name. We didn't even know she was 3. We just knew this little girl was found on the side of the road at midnight.
Holy
and she can't tell you her name. She told me her name was Baby. And she told me my name was Grandma.
So sad.
Like, yeah,
wow.
You don't
sometimes they don't have it.
Okay. Yeah.
So what you're able to do is you're able to have like kind of a baseline of how you get the information, how you meet other families around you in the same boat, and you're able to help all the families around.
Yeah, and it's really like a network. So it's really meant to, so if you get a kid dropped off at 7 p.m. and you don't know, maybe it's your first placement or it's your second placement or it's just really early on, and you don't know something, yes, you can call DFACS, but you're just going to talk to somebody who's on call. They will have no idea who this kid is that was just dropped off at your house. And so it's just a lot easier to call a foster parent who's seasoned and say, here's the boat I'm in. Can you walk me through what's happening right now? And creating that peer-to-peer support, number one, helps everybody remember they're not doing this by themselves. But it also, our DFACS case manager turnover rate is really high because it's a really freaking hard job. And if we can just take a little bit off their plates, then we can keep them longer.
That makes sense.
Interesting. So. Okay.
Well, should we introduce Sean?
How am I going to follow that up?
Like with your own little pizzazz.
I didn't know anything about foster care until I met you. Neither.
That's not true. You knew your...
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Introduce yourself. Tell us about you.
I'm Sean Standridge. I'm an addict and former drug distributor. That's what landed me in trouble and into the foster care realm. So, like in 2022. I was arrested and raided and caught doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. So I ended up being incarcerated for a year. And during that time, I had a newborn baby that Miss Megan here took into care and raised for it was a whole year.
Year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. And, after I got out, they gave me an option. They were like, you ever been to rehab? And I was like, no, never been to rehab. But rehab doesn't work because all your clients come out and then they come back and see me anyway. So I thought rehab was a joke because it really was. I even had people that would come back and I'm like, where you been? Oh, I just got out of rehab. I was like, then you need to go.
You're
You
like,
need to go.
I
Get
made
out of
so
here."
much
Like,
money
straight
off
up.
you rehab.
Yeah, don't come back. I don't want it. Don't come back.
This is like real life Breaking Bad.
Yeah, and it really was like that. It got to a
Wow.
point where I remember being like, well, I ain't thought of God in a while. I remember getting high during my son's, like, he's about to turn 2, so it was his second birthday, and I had to be high to be at the birthday party. And I was like, when I got back home, I was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, straight up, I was like,
Aw.
God, if you're out there, I need a favor. And Oconee County Police Department showed up Thursday at about 12 o'clock with guns drawn. And so, yep,
That was
he
the favorite.
That was
he
the
did my favor.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, so all that worked out. I went to rehab. I just completed rehab, the refresh program. I had to go to intensive treatment program for 45 days. And then I had to go to rehab for a year. I looked up and ended up getting, what was it called? Early child placement.
With Daisy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to go home.
How many kids do you have?
I've got 5.
5.
4 girls and 1 boy.
So
wow.
did only one of them end up with Megan?
One of them ended up, my parents luckily took the other 3. Like, I have a 16-year-old daughter that stays in Haversham. Her mom's a teacher. So,
Okay.
yeah.
She was okay.
Yeah. So, then I got, and Megan linked up after my kid came back, and I've been with her ever since.
Wow.
When we got the call for Daisy, it was a Saturday morning, and DFACS called, and they're like, hey, we have a baby that needs picked up from the hospital, but she only needs placement for a week because she's going to go to grandma and grandpa. And
That didn't work out.
it's okay.
There's too
But
many kids.
Oh, no.
but grandma and grandpa were putting they had just gotten the other kids, and they needed to put them all in school and, just like get their lives
Yeah.
together.
A lot going
And then I
on.
remember after like a week, DFACS was like, can you give grandma and grandpa a little bit longer? And we're like, yeah, that's fine. Like, we're in no hurry. She's literally an angel. Like, she's beautiful and she's wonderful and she doesn't cry and she's just perfect in every way. So she can stay as long as she wants. And then I remember his dad calling me, and he's like, please don't judge me, but can you just keep her?
Oh.
Can you? Like, I don't want to be a bad grandparent, but our hands are full. And I've met the other
That's
3.
going
And
to be a
they're
hard phone call because I would have been afraid of the judgment, but you can only do what you can do. And that's, I guess, what you're stepping in for.
Yes. Well, and all of the kids at that point were under the age of 4.
3, 2, 1. I got 6, 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah. So like
Okay.
reverse a year and a half, and they were little. I mean, he was like, grandma and grandpa were like swimming in diapers, and
Sure.
And mind you, they never knew about these kids.
no, they did not.
My whole 7 years of
Oh.
addiction.
What?
This whole 7 years, really it's 14 years, but 7 years of addiction or whatever. They missed the first ones, like, they knew I was on drugs because I'd left drugs. I dropped a sack of drugs over at their house, and they never told me about it, but I never went back to go talk about it. So they opted not to come to Aurora's birth.
Uh-huh.
So, like,
They knew she was
rationalizing-
born, though.
Yeah, they knew she was born. They got a picture of her and everything. And then, like,
They did.
I got hurt. Like, that hurt my feelings really bad,
Yeah,
but I'm
of course
also in
it did.
addiction. So I'm like, I'm going to make it your damn fault. So I was like, look,
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't want to come see her, you'll never have to hear from me again. So I had a couple, COVID happened. My PlayStation 4 broke. I got bored. So a lot of babies came one after the other after that. And I never called him. I never let him know anything.
Mm-mm. He told me when he called me that day. I remember I was at a restaurant and I went outside to talk to him because I was like, this grandfather's calling me. He said, well, just so you know, when DFACS called me, I didn't know 2 of these kids existed. I didn't know there was a 4th on the way, and I haven't talked to Sean in years. And I was like,
wow.
oh, we are at this point in our relationship. And I was like, okay. And I told him, I was like, we will hold on to Daisy as long as you guys need. And if you ever want her, she's yours. She's not ours. And he just said, well, we're going to see what Sean does. And then the ball was in his court.
And it sounds like you took the ball and you ran.
Yeah, I did.
In the right
They
direction.
really, Deepak's came. I was like, so because I asked them if they ever did anything for me, because I didn't trust DFACS. I thwarted DFACS for 3 years. Like, DFACS came around and investigated, and I was like, go on now. Like straight up. So I did everything in my power. I literally quit using drugs and cleaned up everything. I had a case go with Charlie for I think it was 6 months, like where I was drug tested every week. But they did it every week on Thursday. So, every week on Thursday I took a drug test. I did they had these little classes and stuff. I participated in essay phase. After 6 months and they left, I was like, their mom, and we just started using again, after defects was out. So I'd clear them out each time and then it'd go right back to that or whatever.
Right back to the same cycle.
Yeah, right back to it, which probably scares you because here I come up on like 2 years of quitting. You're like, are you really going to do it? But yeah, it's different now because
you put in a lot of work.
Yeah, that whole, it's funny. They say this thing in recovery, like the things that you pray for down the road, like the things that I prayed for in my addiction, like I wanted to be back with my family. I wanted a relationship. Like I had nowhere to go. Like I was shameful. Like I didn't want to face them. I didn't want to need them. I didn't want their help. So like I isolated and got away from everybody. Even though I was doing bad, I at least felt in my mind, you're doing this all for yourself. Like you've got money, the kids, needs are taken care of. You don't need anybody else. Like you've got your own, you've done built up this whole thing, and the drug dealing thing, which, wasn't ideal at all. But, once I got in deep, there was no quitting. I tried to quit a couple times, but it's like building your own business. Once you build up, like these things depend on, like the money depends on, and you've got like shipments and all this stuff.
Your shipments.
Yeah. I was lucky when they came and got me too, that they didn't get me what they could have got me. They investigated me for a long time, but
oh wow,
I got really lucky in that praying helped there. But and then when they came to me about Megan, they're like, "You got the gold star foster mom." I was like, "What the hell is a foster mom?" First of all,
I don't know who told you that.
Amanda Bryan.
There it is.
Your name is
Miss Bryan. Miss Bryan.
He's got the names.
I mean,
I loved her.
Yeah, and she is awesome. She's awesome until you're in trouble. But
Okay, let me back this up for a minute. Okay, so how old were you when you got into the dealing?
All right, so at 26, I raised my first daughter. I moved to South Carolina, and I got clean. So at 26, I'd say about 28, me and her mom separated. And when we separated, I moved back to Watkinsville and she stayed in South Carolina. So that meant my daughter stayed in South Carolina. So I ain't gonna lie, I got like depressed because like my first daughter, I did everything with her. Her mom's a teacher. So I mean, like I was a stay-at-home dad. Oh, that was wild. Everybody wants to do that till they do it. You gain so much weight and McDonald's. Yeah, it's bad. So I did that for about 3 years. So when we separated, 28, like this is a girl I was with when I was 15 years old all the way up.
Were you guys using in high school at 15?
I started my first time ever using meth or anything hard like that was 18 years old. Okay, so at 20, she gave me an ultimatum. She was like, you either quit or you don't have a part in your daughter's life. I was like, done. I quit. So I did quit and we moved and like I said, 26, 28, or it's probably 28. We raised her. We were about to get married, and I started smoking pot again. I didn't see no big deal with smoking pot. And then, she's a teacher, so like she's got an image or whatever, and I know what that would have seemed like me doing that. Like, so I didn't quit. I didn't want to change. I was like, I'm not changing that. So we separated, and 28, I reached out to some people that I knew back in high school, and yeah, it fired up from there. So yeah, 28, yeah.
I have a question about defects a little bit. So you were saying like you don't trust them. Have you gained a new respect, or is there, like we've talked about, there's definitely holes in the system, but tell me a little bit more about that.
I haven't seen any hope. Well, I mean, you tell me about there. I know there's scary stories out there, and I've been a little frustrated with defects too. But look, when I went to jail in 2022, and I had no phone calls, I had no visitors, and they're like, "You got a visitor," and I'm like, "No, I don't." And then it's in a room, and DFAX is there, Miss Bryan's there, and she's like, "You are not what I thought you were." I was like, "Well, y'all aren't either, but I don't trust y'all." Like straight up, why are y'all here? And she was like, well, the kids are in care do you want me to reach out? What can we do for you? I was like, what the hell you mean?
Oh.
Nobody can do anything for me right
no
now.
one ever asked you that
Aw.
before, maybe.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
had
And so it
they?
was like, what the hell are you really here for?
Because at that
Yeah.
point, the kids were with an emergency family
Yeah,
in
she's
North
like,
Georgia.
I can't tell you who they are. I can tell you, like, we're checking in on them. And they're like, don't you have family? I was like, my family lives like, at the time in Watkinsville, I'm at Watkinsville, Oconee County Jail. My parents lived 2 minutes up the road.
Oh,
like literally.
wow.
Okay.
I was like, I do have family. I was like, look, I'll make you a deal. Like I told her straight up, I was like, I'll trust you if you'll do this one favor for me. And she was like, what is it? And I was like, can you go to 1190, and can you go just tell my parents, like, I need them to take the kids, like straight up. They don't even know
Oh, wow.
that there's this many. There's a little soccer team right now. They
Like,
don't
can
know
you
that
please
this-
go
this
break
many.
the news?
Yeah, I was like, and if you'll do this one favor for me, I will do whatever y'all say. And she was like, all
Oh,
right.
wow.
She went and she
She
come
took
back
care
2
of
weeks
you.
later. She was like, all right, so they are going.
Let me backtrack. So, a second earlier, you had mentioned that there was a point where there was a case going with DFACS with one of the kids. And then once that case had closed, you had gone back to doing the same routine as usual. What opened that case? How did that case come about?
All right, so the mother gave birth to our kid on the bathroom floor. We delivered a kid on the bathroom floor at her house.
Ah.
And I couldn't understand why. It took a little bit of time because it was all weird. Like, delivered a baby on a bathroom floor. So, I mean, I didn't think about it as much, but she was trying to mask the fact that she had used. And I didn't really think she was going into labor because it was kind of early. So she was like, I'm just going to get in the bathtub. So she got in the bathtub. Next thing I know, my buddy's running. He falls and he's like, you got to come in here. There's a baby.
Oh,
There's
my
a baby on the floor. And I was like, so I ran in there and she's apologizing the whole time. Still not thinking nothing of it because I'm about to faint.
How old are you at this point?
This was with Charlie. So this was 30, about 30 years old. No, 30,
No, you were
32.
older than that.
32.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, you look like you're like 28.
no, yeah, that's until I take off my hat and you see how much bald I am. But anyways, I wear the hat and yeah, but yeah, that happened. That happened.
So
And,
DFACS got involved.
so like we go
That
to
makes
the
sense.
hospital and I'm riding in the car and I about fainted. I'm not gonna lie, I was like, I never want to see a baby again.
No one wants to see a
Like,
baby be
that's
born. I
horrible.
don't.
There's so much blood, and we're riding in the ambulance, and I get there, and then she has to go to the NIC unit, the only baby ever had that went NIC unit.
Mm.
I'm like, what's going on here? And they're like, her oxygen's too low,
Yeah.
and like I had to suction this baby's mouth. The baby wasn't breathing when she came out. Like I think Charlie landed in the toilet.
And you knew to suction?
Yeah, because like she, I know when the babies come out, they have all that amniotic fluid, like there's all that mucus
I
and
think he
stuff.
knows
is in
more
there.
than I do.
So literally, like when she wasn't breathing, I'm looking at her, she's turning purple, and I was like, oh no. So I was like, look, somebody hand me like I had a little, it's like a booger
Nose
syringe,
thingy.
babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had one. The girl brings it to me, and I start suctioning down her mouth, and like the more and more I'm doing it, she starts saying, I was like, all right. So I kept suctioning, and she was crying, and she was mad, and I was like, I'm sorry, baby, but as long as you're crying, I know you're breathing.
Dude,
So, yeah, it
regardless of how this came about, the fact that you had parental instincts in whatever state the baby was born, like that's incredible.
Yeah, that's something like I'm not gonna lie, like hey, even in my addiction, like I had all these kids, man. Like I was raised by good parents. So
That's a good thing. That was a good
background.
point. Yeah, I was curious about the background because
No,
I
my
feel
background was perfect. I was raised in suburbia and all that stuff. I went to Oconee County. Like I had no reason
Interesting.
to be on the path that I was on other than I was rebellious. I thought everything that my dad told me was BS. I thought I knew better than him. I have to apologize every freaking day and be like, hey, Dad, you're right. I love you. I'm sorry. I had to grow up.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I came from a good background. I made a bunch of bad choices and stuff like that. But yeah.
It happened.
Oh, and then the DFACS case got opened up because the baby tested positive for drugs. So
that was what
yeah.
I was going to ask. You had said she had just used. Wow.
Yeah, but see, they waited a while to tell me. Like, I was like, we had to go, like, this is at COVID too. COVID was going on.
Oh.
So, like, the NIC unit, like, we had to come within a specific time period, had to get, thermometered and everything like that. So, I mean, like, they wouldn't tell me because there's so much chaos going on at that time.
Wow.
didn't tell us until we got out of the NICU, DFACS work. This woman shows up and I'm like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I'm with DFACS. And I was like, I looked at the mother and I'm like, are you serious? I think we went a month before they even
Oh,
did anything
wow.
about it. Yeah.
I honestly don't know how they avoided the kids getting taken.
I feel like
current
from
one.
my experience, there is no consistency on how DFACS handles each case, no matter their similarities.
Well, DFACS is going to leave the kids with family if they can at all. So DFACS, I'm not going to speak on their behalf because I don't work for them, even though
Your experience
the
of what
amount of-
you've observed.
the amount of times I talk to them in a day, you would think I'm employed by them. But they rate it on like protective capacity. Like, is there enough protective capacity over this child?
Mm-hmm.
Or does the child have protective capacity? And so that's kind of how it's assessed. So like something that you may take an infant and care for, you wouldn't take a 17-year-old and care for because that 17-year-old has their own protective capacity.
Got
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas an infant wouldn't. But if they saw that mom had very low protective capacity, but dad had high protective capacity, there's a chance the kids will stay because removal is the last thing we want. Number one,
Right.
because it's bad for the kids, it's not healthy for the parents, and there's nowhere to put kids right now. Like all the foster homes are full. So where we can't just
That makes sense.
willy-nilly take kids into care. Now,
You
Tom,
good?
you think that they just
No,
come
I
and take
said the
everybody's
people
kids?
on my side, like me, like it's like, oh, like they're child nappers, like straight up. It's
They're
like, what
gonna
are you
try and
doing out
make
here? You
a-
need to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
I think that's a fair assessment.
Okay, so go back. When you were incarcerated,
mm-hmm.
was there enough protective capacity for the kids to stay with your ex?
Hell no. What are
Okay,
you
so
talking
they're not
about?
kidnapped. They left them there with you.
Yeah, but I'm saying when you're like in that
I
in
know.
that lifestyle, it's like okay,
It's-
when they
it's
show up, it's
scary.
like red flag. Yeah, it is.
It's got to be
scary.
because you're not doing everything that you're not providing what they need. And so, yeah, you're afraid every second that they could come and get them, I bet.
You're already feeling self-conscious that you're already making these bad. Well, for me, I was making really, really bad decisions. I was really bad. I already felt low on myself. So I mean, like straight up, last thing you want is somebody coming in and being like, okay,
Right.
really don't need to be a parent. It's like I already feel like I already know what I'm doing is not.
Yeah.
It's a survival tactic. You know what I'm saying? It was
Can you
survival.
explain what's going on internally? Like you've said multiple times at this point, I know I'm doing wrong. I know that I don't need to be doing this, but then it keeps happening. So like what does that look like or what does that feel like?
I mean, it's addiction, like straight up. Like I used to think that when they're like it's a disease, I was like, no, you're just making excuses for bad behavior. I learned real quick that's not. It really is a disease. At one point, when I got to the end, I didn't want to get high. I didn't want to use. I didn't want to be around these people that I was miserable, man. Like I didn't even want to be alive. But I had these children
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, man, if you checked out or did something reckless, like the trauma and everything that you probably put on
Right.
these kids and stuff like that. And so I mean, like at the end of the day, I didn't using like once you get high so much, it doesn't work anymore. You're not using to get high anymore. You're using because that is your routine. That is everything you
That's
built
what your
around. It's
body-
like the first thing you wake up when you go get
Mhm.
coffee. First thing you wake
Yeah.
up, you use. And then I also had this thing to where like I'm raising these kids. If mom crashes out during the daytime, I can't have kids roaming around the house or not being looked after and like eating lunch and stuff like that. So, I'd be like, okay, I can never sleep again. But that realistically, those dumb. But I mean, it's just how like I'd created everything. I covered up a lot of shame, guilt. I didn't had trauma from losing my daughter in the first relationship. I tried to cover that up because I didn't have time to be sad. I lost like my best friend to
Oh.
drugs. I covered that up because I went around
Sorry.
for a month being sad. Yeah. And, I've lost people in recovery. Every single thing that happened to me that got me on drugs happened in recovery this last year. I lost one of my really good friends, lost him in recovery too. He died.
It's gotta be hard.
Yeah,
a
it
hard
was.
part
And,
of recovery.
I was faced with the decision. I was like, at least this time, my first reaction wasn't like, oh, I'm going to leave rehab and I'm going to go get high. That's going to make it better because I'd already built up a foundation. And I think the 1 year of me being incarcerated helped a lot because kind of go crazy up in jail. I was like, I ain't meant for this place, boy. I don't like it here. I ain't meant for this. I was like, I'm tired of seeing these people go out and then they come right back. And it's like, you was just gone. Why are you coming right back?
Wow.
So I kind of did like 12 steps in jail. But I'm not gonna lie, like the first month, they're like, you got a bond here. And I was like, hell yeah. Got a bond here. And all right, so I'm gonna get out of here and I'm gonna go right back. I done lost my kids. This was my thinking at the point. It took about 3 months to change, but I was like, I lost my kids, so I'm just going to go back out there and use. Like, I'm going to continue everything, start back up business and everything. And then that judge was like, yeah, I don't think you need to. This is clearly working. You're sober. And I was like, damn it. So we went again. And I was like, I'm definitely going to get it this time. This is 2 months. He was like, no, Mr. Standard, I believe we're doing the right thing. I was like, oh, shit, I'm stuck here. So I'm not gonna lie, I throw the props to the judge because it took 3 months for me to be like, like once you accept that the situation that you're in is not going to change, and I rationalized me. I'm like, there's a reason that I'm here.
You were in jail the first 8 months of Daisy's life, right? Because I remember when they called me to say that you were gonna transition to Advantage. And Daisy was going to start visits.
Yeah, 45 days.
And I was like, she's going to start visits with a man who I've never met. And she's never met.
Wow.
How old
First
was
time
she?
he sent me pictures of her was when I was in an NA meeting when I first got to ITP.
Before you had met her?
Mm-hmm.
It's scary. It's on our side, it's scary knowing I have to send this tiny little thing to...
With this monster. Yeah.
No,
yeah,
I did not say that.
Wow. But you're with her.
No. You send her with a transporter. Somebody comes and gets them. And
oh, yeah, that would be nerve-wracking.
It's nerve-wracking. And, we're a house of women, so she didn't really have much interactions with men.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder how this is going to go.
So we've talked about how you had a good past, but still ended up on this path. We've talked about how it progresses. Do you feel like you've learned anything that could help other people in the same situation of, I know I'm fucking up, I don't want to do this anymore? Like, what is their next step? What do they do?
Next step is, and this is real big, you don't have to keep doing that shit. Like, I was scared of a lot of things at the time that I was doing this. I had no family. I thought I had no family. In my mind, I'd rationalize I had no family. I had no place to go. I had no stable, environment to go to. Like, I was scared of everything. I was scared to leave the relationship that I would never see my kids again. But you got to let go of fear. Fear is what drives us to do a lot of things like that. And you can quit. You can definitely quit and stop doing it if you want to. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can say all day long, look, I'm going to quit. I'm going to do this. No, the thing is, you have to put in the work. You have to put in action what you say you're going to do. Yeah, it's all fun, dandy to go up there and go to rehab and hang out with these all kinds of dudes for 12 months and fake it till you make it until you get out and then you're free to do whatever. You actually have to take this thing. You have to sit there and you have to learn these. You have to build a new foundation. You have to build a new routine. You have to get a new healthy habit. You have to rewire your brain, straight up.
This is Samantha.
And Melissa. I don't know what you guys are going to be doing this year, but I hope that you'll join us for our very first ever fundraising event on behalf of the Five Hive.
Sugar Plum Fairies, Dancing for Charity. The Five Hive is a nonprofit organization that brings equitable resources to all the families within the foster care system. Their passion is to provide awareness and support in reuniting families.
Did you know that there are families in our community who have lost their children and been separated due to the simple fact that they could not afford to pay their utilities? Let's bring them some Christmas magic.
Learn more information and buy your ticket on our website at www.theskirtsupshow.com. See you there. Do they give you therapy to help you do that?
Yeah, they do give us a therapist, and I know some are better than others. Mine's pretty kick-ass, but and that's because, I think he just knows how to handle me. He's really good, and you need somebody that's going to call you on your bullshit. That's one thing that a lot of people don't do. I was that drug dealer that would still call you on your bullshit. Like, the people who come from rehab, you need to go back. You don't need to be around here.
So if you knew that they came out of rehab, you would deny?
No, yeah, I would deny. I would deny. Like, straight up. I tried to have a
You had a
what's it
moral
called?
compass.
Yeah, I tried to have that,
The-
and then there was some times that didn't work out.
The dealer with a
but-
conscience.
Yeah, it's like, oh, didn't you just get out of
That's
rehab?
rough.
All right, I'll see you
How are
later.
you supposed to make money?
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, like I
So what
made
I'm
so much money, it
hearing
didn't even
is that you weren't ready to be done, in all
no,
honesty.
no, and I kept making every excuse of like
Well, you would stop. You would get clean.
I would stop and get clean, but I mean, in the end, like I didn't stay clean. Like there was always like that rationalizing and stuff like that. I wasn't really done. I mean, well, you do have to change your people, places, and things. And guess what? I didn't change none of that.
And did you this time?
Until
Yeah, I did this time. Look, I thought I was court mandated to go to a 1-year program, and then I realized I wasn't court mandated. Like I told them at the end of ITP, they're like, "Where are you going after this?" I was like, "I'm going home." And they're like, "Where's home at?" I was like, "Home is," and they're like, "Where everything started." And I was like, "Yeah, but I've been locked up
Wow.
for 8 months. Hell yeah, I'll be able to, no problem. This would be a cakewalk." And then the counselor grabbed me and pulled me aside, and he was like, "Look, you just said you have 4 kids you're trying to get back." He's like, "Don't go back home
Mm-mm.
to where everything started. I don't care if you've been doing
is
2 years.
interesting.
It doesn't matter if you've gone 2 years. Don't put yourself back in that situation." I realized, like, when it came down time, and me and the mother kind of fought about this. She's like, "You're coming back home next week." And I was like, "Actually, I'm not coming back home." And she was
Wow,
like, "Why?"
that's
And I was like,
big.
I'm going into this program. And, she had advocated for me to go in for a little bit. But when
Mhm.
I got out, she's like, "All right, after ITP, you can just come back."
Okay, so it was a year of jail,
Yeah.
and then how long is the place after that?
All right, so it was like 45 days of intensive treatment program. That's your entry fee. Like you have to make it through this 45 days to go to the 1-year program.
Okay, so after the
Oh,
40,
wow.
so 1 year in
They-
jail, then
Yeah.
45 days of this program,
Yeah.
then another year and another. Okay.
Yeah.
And what are the costs? Did it?
All right, so look, this for anybody that wants to get help within the Athens or Athens area. All right, there's this program called. They should be okay with me. Refresh.
But it's only for men, right?
Yeah, it's for men. You go through the ITP intensive treatment program or whatever, but the refresh program is completely free.
Mm,
Like I'm talking about, like completely free. That's the only
like
requirement.
housing and stuff?
Like housing. Okay, so they'll take you in. They will house you. You'll move into an apartment. You will not pay for rent. You will save your money while you're in this program. So you stay for a year. You're not allowed to work for the first 4 months.
Okay.
That's the thing. All right. So the first 4 months is building up like a routine. You go to classes. You do matrix. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but it's like substance abuse classes.
Okay.
You do. You go to meetings. They want you to get a sponsor and work steps. You constantly build that up for 4 months. Then in 4 months, they're like, "All right, you can go
in
get
the
a job.
world.
You can work." Yeah, so you can get a work. You can go to work, and then that's when the real element comes in. You have to juggle everything that you've built up. Like if you're there for 4 months and you ain't building up nothing, you can get your ass kicked out.
It's-
Like the first time
Right.
you start working, because you're not going to attend meetings. You're not going to be
Right.
doing what you're supposed to be doing, because some people get into the autopilot mode of, "All right, I just get up and go to work, and that's it. I don't have to
Yeah.
do anything else." Because a
Is
lot
this
of
a
people
county
wanted jobs
program?
in addiction.
Refresh?
I know I got, advantage or refresh is, well, I got offered to it by the courts.
Oh.
The courts offered it. They offered me a bunch of them, but yeah, I got offered to it by the courts. I mean, I know people can call up there and talk to them, and you can come in off the street and do that. You don't just have to be in jail to do that.
That's really neat because that's not just sending you back home. That's giving you an option to relearn and then take baby steps into the real world while being held accountable.
And having a support system.
And so after that 1 year, you were able to kind of be free and
Yeah, take everything I learned, and that's what I had to learn. Like they gave me early home placement, so I got to technically go home after like 7 months because the kids were coming back. That's it's
Home
a
to your
cakewalk.
parents, not
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, to my parents and the kids and everything. So I mean, like that was the real test coming back, like
yeah.
and having to adjust to that. But I had to take literally almost everything that I learned over there. I still go to meetings. I'm a sponsor. about to start sponsoring people. I still do, 12 steps. I'm still an NA. I still carry all that routine over into my now working life, coming home, getting the kids off the bus, cooking dinner, putting them to sleep, starting that up at 5:30 again in the morning. So, I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Wow. That's a lot.
I got her to help though.
What I do?
You help all the time. What are you talking about?
So how did your guys' friendship, how did that bond get created?
Are we friends?
Yeah, and I'll tell you this right now. She might not overthink the minute that I knew that I could trust Megan, and I knew Megan was an integral part in Daisy's life. I told you about the actions speak louder than words thing. I'm very firm believer. I raised my kids to believe that. First time me and Megan like really physically met, we went to, I mean, you want to learn how to trust somebody, go to a doctor's appointment where they give your kids shots, or go to the emergency room with that person and see how they handle that. So the first one at Ready Care was, for the ear infection. That was all right. I was like, okay, I was watching you the whole time.
You were
with
so
Daisy.
nervous.
Yeah, but
you
I was
got out of
also-
the truck talking a million miles a minute, and I was like,
So is this like you're in the 1-year step program? She still has Daisy.
Oh, I'd gone back home.
had
at this
just
point.
moved
Yeah,
home.
I'd gone
okay,
back home.
okay.
So he moved home a few months before they sent Daisy home, just to let him get, acclimated.
So at
with
this
all the
point, you
other-
guys still weren't really tight. Like it's still a stranger with the kid. He's still
No, we had never met. He doesn't remember, but we spoke on the phone at the hospital, which you don't remember.
Long time.
All you said was thank you.
Oh yeah, you did. She gave you the phone.
No, she had it on speakerphone.
Okay, yeah.
And then I got his number when he first got out, and I was just like, I just want him to have photos so you know your kid's okay. So I would just send him photos. But then the first time we actually met in person was in April of this year.
What?
Yeah.
And he was supposed to have Daisy for her first overnight visit, and she had an ear infection. Well, we didn't know. We just knew she was sick.
So you left her for an overnight.
No, I still had her. She was going Saturday morning, and it was Saturday morning, and she was miserable.
Aw.
And I called him, and I was like, I think we have to go to urgent care. Something's not right. She doesn't feel good. And he's like, can I come with you? And I was like, yeah, it's your kid. Of course you can come with me. And so we met at urgent care, and that was he got out of the truck talking a million miles a minute. I was like, hello, I'm Megan. Slow down.
You know who to expect. I had never seen. I didn't have anything. I didn't know her last
Wow.
name really. I couldn't look her up on Facebook. I didn't know
would
what
you
else
have
going
stalked
into.
me?
Yeah.
Probably.
I was already stalking him. Nope.
Yeah.
I was keeping an eye.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So we went to the doctor and
So
sat
what
in an
made you trust
8x8
her?
room.
I watched how she handled Daisy, and that time wasn't nothing too special. It's the second time how long?
The very next week we went back
the
to
very
doctor.
next week we went, and she's like, "You want to go with me to get her shots?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll definitely be there for the shots because that's a big deal right there.
Sure.
There's going to be cries and theirs and all this stuff and hugs
bunnies.
and look, you do this and we'll go get something after this." But
It was her
I went
18-month shots.
Yeah, I went with Megan, and man, they stuck Daisy, and the kids never know this. They're all having the time of their life playing around and junk, and then
And then
the
stab.
doctor comes in, and they're kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
"Right over there," and they bring that tray, and
Yeah.
they stick Daisy, and I see Megan over there. What you do for her is like rubbing her face and like consoling her, and like the way that I was just watching. I was like, this lady didn't just raise my kid. This woman really loves Daisy,
Loves her.
like straight up. And like she got Daisy calm down. I'm dad, and I can't get her to calm down. I'm like, there, it's okay.
You were holding her.
Yeah, but that wasn't enough. But and then she's just like reaching back and she's rubbing her
Aw.
face, and then like she calms down, and like, man, that kind of stuff right there. Like that's when I knew. I was like, all right, this woman isn't just.
Is that the first time you watched someone with one of your kids and was like, that's what I want?
Exactly, because it was just like. It's just like how I seen my mom with us, or like a mother. Like that was a mother thing to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the way she was, I was like, this isn't just some lady that was paid to take my kid. This isn't some lady that just had this kid dropped off. She was like motherly with the kid, which surprised me. You didn't have kids, but like You know,
And it sounds like not only did she become motherly and just a figure for your kid, I can feel that there's some sort of mentorship and
oh yeah, yeah. There is.
you're laughing.
She keeps me informed on it. Boy, she's got to. Sometimes she got to remind me to tie my own shoes. Like I got a calendar because of her. And she's like, look, WIC's coming up. And I was like, WIC?
I do send him reminders.
So WIC I have never used in my life.
Have you used it yet? Did you use it last month?
Yeah, I did. My dad and me went and he was like, get your beans, get your vegetables. Like you get this much cereal.
Oh,
I'm
your
like,
dad's such a pro.
yeah, I'm like, all right. He's like, well, I'm just going to let you know you didn't use half of it and it expires tomorrow, but next month we'll get it. We'll get it next month. So, yeah, it was a learning experience. You know, I never used WIC. Like, I just paid for it out of pocket.
Yeah.
Never really did the food stamp thing, just paid for it out of pocket. But, you know, she's the reason I got a calendar because there's a bunch of these. Like, she sent me the event thing today. Yeah, you did. It's in our Google something. It came up 30 minutes before you got there. But, you know, she reminds me, like, of all this stuff. And then I'm sure, like, when the CAPS thing, you know, I'm going to need your help because I have a packet of paperwork about that thick.
I would say, though, even after the doctor's appointments, which were in April, okay, and then Daisy went home June 1st. And then I wasn't sure if he would ever talk to us again after he picked Daisy up. Because he doesn't have to. Like,
right.
He got permission to come get her on June 1st, and we said, okay, 3:00, you're going to come pick her up. And that was it.
And you're used to, like, a peace out, I'm not going to hear from them again?
Well, so here's, like, foster care in a nutshell. Do this really hard thing. Love this child. Love this bio parent. Now give the kid back. Maybe you'll never see or hear them again or know if they're okay. And your heart breaks, and now you have to do it again. That's all we do. It's cycle.
Yeah.
And for most, not all, some bio parents, all we are is a reminder of a really bad time in their life.
That makes sense.
So why would you want to talk to me?
That makes sense.
I was the time where you were incarcerated. I was the time where you were in refresh. I was the time where you lost your kids. Like, I'm just a bad memory.
Yeah.
And with Daisy being so young, if he picked her up on June 1st and she never saw us again, she wouldn't remember us. She was only 18 months. So we didn't really talk much in June or July because I was like trying to respect him. And him building a relationship with Daisy and like
give him space.
Yeah, and also just not being like, hello, I'm that bad reminder of this really bad time in your life. And then something happened at the end of July. And
you go to court with me.
Oh yeah, I did.
And didn't you speak
No, that
up?
was in May.
Okay, well that
I did speak up.
also put some points on you too.
Yeah.
I don't have legal representation because I've applied for it 2 times. And the courts, for some reason, even my judge is like, we filled out this paperwork. I took you to my chambers to fill out this paperwork and you still don't have nobody. And I was like, well, I called the dude over there that's in our court. He said he'd represent me. And then all of a sudden, some other lady shows up. So, you know, I didn't have representation. And she's the one that stood up in court and was like,
wow,
I think he should have unsupervised visitation, something I've been waiting on forever to get.
But nobody was asking.
Yeah, and then I see people come into the courts and like within...
Like no one was asking for you already.
Yeah, but see, I didn't know you had to ask for that. I thought like it went by like progression, like how good you progress. And I was like, man, I'm about done with my program. I'm about to graduate. I was like, you got, I've got like almost
You're trying
2
to be
years.
patient.
Yeah, I've got 2 years of clean time coming up. You just gave unsupervised visitation to somebody that has 30 days of clean time. And like, I'm like, maybe they just, I just sat there.
It sounds like the foster parents need a lot of like training and help, but it sounds like the biological parents aren't really even getting training and they're just kind of like, you're like left in the dark. Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, it all depends on your experience with your case manager. It depends on your experience with your CASA. It really just depends on
the people that you have.
Yeah. And it also depends.
I don't think that it's probably very common that a foster parent or a foster family would care so much. And I don't mean that in like any rude or bad way, but like to want to see you do better and to want you to be the best that you can be. Am I wrong in thinking that that's probably not common?
That
You're
Kinda
rare.
leads into a question I have as
You're
well.
rare.
Stop.
You're rare.
It's okay. So there are people. I think people foster for two reasons. People foster because they believe in reunification
Mm-hmm.
and they believe in stability for children.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who foster because they want to build their family,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. And you kind of, and wanting to build your own family is okay because a lot of children go to adoption.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I had 2 little girls for 6 years that were just adopted by a family who's just not meant to foster. Like, fostering is really freaking hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. And there are families who cannot do this. But they can adopt and they can give children forever homes. And that's just as important.
Right.
But I believe that until we've reached the point where we can't reunify,
Mhm.
that is what our focus is on.
Right.
And it helps if you have seen a successful reunification. So
Mhm.
our first little, my nephew successfully went home after 10 months. And that was the saddest I've ever been in my life.
Oh.
Then Daisy going home was the second saddest I've ever been in my life. But when I saw him go home and my sister thrive and him thrive,
Uh-huh.
it made it much easier this time because I can see what that looks like now.
And you
Yeah.
thrive to help the parents
Yeah.
succeed.
Well, and he's taught me just as much about helping parents as I've done for him because there are still things I wish I had done better with him.
Everything worked out perfectly. It
Oh,
works out as it should.
But yeah, I
love
mean,
you guys.
my last bio parent that I worked with for 6 years was not a Sean. It just depends on the bio parent. I'm gonna get another little in a few months, and I'm gonna have another Sean in my life, or a Seanista. I don't know what we're gonna call a mom, and it could go great, and it could. But we'll do everything we can.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Sean, are you open, like, if she has another bio parent that wants some assistance and guidance, are you also an open ear for them to be like, oh, yeah, you can do this and this is how?
Yeah, so there's something coming up that I might be participating in. There's something you want to talk about there. Are we allowed to talk about that?
What are we talking about?
Oh, yeah,
What
we
they
can talk
got
about
going
it.
on? Aren't you showcasing them like at an event? The Moms Adopting Moms program?
Yeah.
We talked about that. We
Oh,
talked
I
about that.
really want to hear about this. Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
So is there like a dads adopting dads too?
She wants him to start it.
There's been something said about that, but Miss Mary is
Wait, so are you adopting a mom or a dad?
I mean,
He would adopt a dad.
Okay.
so like the only thing with that being is I'm in FTC court, which is Family Treatment Court.
Uh-huh.
I have seen only 4 dads in a court full of like 30 something women. So I don't know like how effective that would be yet, because like 3 dads that I've seen in FTC in my like almost 2 years being there,
Mhm.
I'll be the 4th one that got custody of their kids or even came to court to get custody of their kids. So, I mean, look at there's 31 to 36 women in there and there's like 3 guys on the back. So I don't know, like,
They'll still
it's
need
very-
someone.
yeah. And like what that would consist of is like someone like us, like,
Mhm.
peer mentoring, like a father trying to, which I will perfectly do that. I mean, I'm already a sponsor in NA.
I was just
so
gonna
But
ask
maybe
if
that's
it was
why
gonna
they're
be
so
similar.
little,
Mhm.
because they don't know that there's even a possibility.
yeah, at one point I was like that too, because I was like, Georgia's a mother and state, like who's
Uh-huh.
gonna, yeah. So I mean that too, and then I didn't find out until like I went to jail, and that was not the case. And it's about to be true for this scenario. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That very well might be the case.
So, like, moms adopting moms or dads
Mhm.
adopting dads when Sean starts it. I'll help you.
You have to.
Like, you can kind of think of, and you have to understand Region 5 is really unique. Like, nowhere else in the state has this. So
Uh-huh.
you have the Five Hive that is serving the foster families and the foster youth.
Uh-huh.
Okay. You have Home in 5, which is my sister, nonprofit, and they're serving all of the agencies that place children and license foster families.
Mhm.
They're like all the defexes of the world. And then you have moms adopting moms taking care of all the bio parents. And if you put all 3 of us together, you've got
Full coverage.
kind of the full package. You've got the foster parents and the foster youth, the legal side of DFACS, and moms adopting moms / dads adopting dads, taking care of the bio families.
Yeah.
And that's the ideal situation is we're making sure that our families are loving on their bio parents and taking care of the kids and have resources and support and mentorship and all the things. DFACS is doing their job so that the kids aren't spending more time in care than they have to. And then moms adopting moms is loving on the bio parents and helping them figure out how the hell to complete a case plan.
Yeah.
Because it is like pages of legal jargon. And you're just like, here, go do all these things. And
It's also getting somebody to the addict or the parent that lost the kid. Like, last thing you want to do is go talk to DFACS.
Right.
And you're not like, if you're, some of these parents are still in it, they're still in their ways or whatever they're still using and stuff like that. So at first, like, hell no, they're not going to trust anybody. So
Yeah.
you want somebody that's been through it, like my experience, like whatever they come tell you to do, they've proven and given me, like, I know everybody's not the same, but I
Right.
mean, like my experience has been everything that I listened to that they told me to do worked out and gave me everything that I wanted in the end.
if he was having a problem with DFACS, we want him to be able to call us
Yeah.
so that we can advocate on his behalf, like we did in court to get you unsupervised
Yeah.
visit. Because
Nice.
for an experienced foster family, if you
And when
even-
you're saying us, you're talking about Five Hive, not necessarily
just
the
foster parents.
Oh, foster parents.
Foster
Okay,
parents.
okay. So you wish that foster parents in general would speak up more for.
Yes.
Okay,
Because-
okay.
For us, so for example, his judge, well, I've known his judge for 7 years
Yeah.
because I've been through how many cases with her.
Mhm.
So if her and I don't know if she would say this, but like we have built-in trust, right?
Mhm.
Because she knows me and I know her. So I can advocate strongly for him in front of that judge because I have that relationship with her
Okay.
from all of my cases. And so
yeah.
like I want to make sure our foster parents know how to advocate for their bio parents.
Mhm. That makes sense.
I love
I-
that
that's
because
probably-
for
yeah.
years, like you hear things about the foster system and you think what you really hear most of the time as an outsider looking in is about all of the kids who are in a system and they just don't have a good family at home and that we need good foster parents.
Mhm.
But what we don't hear is how important it is to keep a kid with their family if we could at all. It's just so traumatic for them to not be able to go back to their family. And so it's amazing to me watching and listening to you how you're like, hey, no, we need to start advocating for the parents too. Like that's where it is.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to get the kids what they need as well.
Yeah. I've never heard that foster parents speak up for the bio parents and love them too, like you love their kids.
But on the flip side, the bio parent has to be doing what's right.
Yeah.
And that
Of course.
and
Okay.
we can help with that. But they have to be getting clean and they have to be working and they have to be working their case plan. And it can be really hard. So Sean's like exemplary in all the ways. But like with my last case, I wanted her reunified more than she wanted reunified.
Mm.
And that was really hard because
That's so
Did it
sad.
last?
75 days.
Yeah.
And now they're
You have to want it.
yes. I can't want it more than you.
Yeah.
I can't be doing more work than you. And so it's a very
Yeah.
slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to go in and advocate against the bio parent. But sometimes
Mm.
that's also how you love them best because
Yeah.
you're saying, as much as I love you, you're not ready to take care of your kids and your kids deserve permanency.
You need to take care of yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So that advocating can go both ways.
So Megan, I met you because Melissa and I
don't know how you met me.
I don't know how I met
It
you.
was an email in my inbox.
It was random. Anyway, somehow I had learned about the Five Hive. I don't even
Mhm.
know how that is. I think it's because I was curious about fostering and I had questions.
I'll sign you up right now. I can drop some kids off tonight.
I have a lot of butts. But I have how many dogs? 4?
That's okay.
Okay, so I had gotten in touch with the Five Hive, which got me in touch with you because Melissa and I wanted to do a Christmas charity event for foster kids. We wanted to be able to give Christmas to as many kids and as many families as we could. And when I spoke to you, you kind of like chuckled and you were like, "Can I be honest with you?" And I was like, "Well, obviously." And then that's when you shared with me the gap in the system that people don't know exists. Can you tell everyone that's listening kind of what you said to me? Because it gave me, I was like jaw on the floor, like goosebumps. I was like, oh shit, I never would have thought of that.
Okay, so for Christmas specifically, I believe that our kids are taken really well care of. Taken care of really well. Our local DFACS, again, we're in a very special place. Our local DFACS collects Christmas wish lists for all our kids and takes care of them. On top of that, the foster families get Christmas money to spend on the kids. And at the end of the day, we're getting paid every day to take care of these children. And so I think that, and that's kind of a perception, is like foster care is just the kids, because that's, what people think of. These kids are in foster care.
Right.
But there's like if you think about all of I think I explained it to you like a sandwich. Was that the metaphor I used?
I don't remember a sandwich.
Where like the foster kids are, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They're the peanut butter and jelly, and they're in the middle of the sandwich with their foster parents, and they're being well taken care of. But on the breads are your families who are at risk of losing their kids, or the families who are just getting their kids back and are under-resourced and underserved because they are either not quite in the system or they're exiting out of the system. And for a lot of those families, either keeping their kids from coming into care or making sure their kids don't come into care means priorities have to be on basics: keeping the power on, putting gas in the car to get to work, keeping food on the table. And so when you roll around to Christmas for our pieces of bread, if your options are, I've got to pay these bills so that the utilities remain on, we're already on the DFACS radar so that my kids stay with us, then Christmas is not the priority.
Right.
And so how do we serve the populations who are really working their butt off to keep their kids or have their first Christmas reunified and avoid their kids back in care? How do we love on kind of the outskirts of the foster care situation, which is incredibly important?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if they keep getting kicked, it's like, how are they going to want to keep going and keep trying?
Yeah.
And I never would have thought about those families. Like, how do they succeed if there's not?
And a lot of them don't, and their kids come back in care.
Yeah. You had told me a story about how I said, okay, well, I'm going to be honest with you. When I think of families being reunited, like, I'm thinking, why are we trying to reunite kids with violent backgrounds or, stuff like that? And you were like, well, no, it's actually majority not like that. It's like, oh, they couldn't pay the bills, like couldn't keep the water on, so their kids got taken away. Well, once they do a few steps and get their kids back, they don't miraculously just have more money to be able to keep the bills on.
No.
So how are they going to keep their kids?
Yeah, I mean, and there are definitely kids in care for abuse. There, 100%, yes, right? And that sucks in a million ways. Most of our kids, though, are in care for neglect. And that is not necessarily the neglect of the children, but just like inability to provide basics.
So neglect is not even, it's a nastier word than...
Yeah, like neglect could be, we're taking this child into care because they're neglected, because they're hungry, because mom can't afford to put food on the table. Right? So how do we back up and get mom food before the kids are taken? And that is family preservation. So before DFACS, before foster care is family preservation. And those are the families that are engaged in family preservation services that are on the radar that could use the resources. And
they probably need some love too.
They need love. Yes.
So Melissa and I, the Skirts Up show, with your guys' help, have decided that we want to work with Megan, the Five Hive, and we want to bring the resources and the help as much as we can this Christmas. So we want to be able to provide Christmas gifts to those kids, and we want to be able to show those parents some love by being able to provide them whatever we can this Christmas year.
Neglect is also something like, I'll tell you something that happened recently. A woman didn't have a car and she didn't have nobody else call. She didn't roll her kid in school. So they show up, kid gets taken for neglect because she didn't have no means to get them to enroll into school. It took about a week, and that was it, and I know a lot of families that I dealt with that power got cut off. There's all kinds of scenarios. It's not just like a using thing. Like, people.
So when we donate to the Five Hive, is that like roll back to the biological parents to help them like keep their car or keep their air on?
Yeah, so we would partner with our Home and Five partners. Where can we make the biggest impact to either eliminate a kid coming into care or eliminate a kid coming back into care?
Yeah.
Like Sean mentioned earlier, for FTC, for example, where you've got 36 women in FTC, a lot of them are either approaching reunification, newly reunified, and they don't have the support Sean has. They don't have a man in their life or a woman, whatever. They don't have family. And so it's how does that single mom who maybe just got 4 kids reunited and is trying to balance 4 children and FTC and a job and keep just the basics up and running?
Yeah.
How do we expect her to...
She needs a break.
Yeah, how do we expect her to celebrate Christmas?
Well, that's where we all come in, Skirts Up Squad. we are going to step in and we are going to help in all the ways that we can. Let's make this a good Christmas for as many families as possible.
This has been amazing. Thank you. And super eye-opening and informative. And honestly, Sean, thank you for being so vulnerable.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
No problem at all.
That's pretty rare. And
yeah, I know you were so nervous, but it was really good to hear.
Yeah, I had like the first 5 minutes sweat and she grabbed my arm and I was like, all right, I'm good now.
Oh my God. It's like, you guys really
so
have.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Melissa, I'm not kidding. There's this like magnetic energy that I can feel. And
Beautiful.
It's just this strong like support and there's some love there.
Sometimes I tell him all the time, I'm like, one day you're going to call DFAX and say, listen, can you reverse back time and can you give me any other foster mom? Any other one?
No.
Because that morning they could have called any 400 of us and I don't know why it was me. We need more foster parents. We need more foster parents specifically who will love their bio parents.
I love that.
Okay, so I have a question about that.
Yes.
I really want to foster. And
I really think you should.
To bio parent. But I have questions.
I mean, I can answer all those for you right now.
Or
we do host a monthly info session. I host one every month. You would think I would know this off the top of my head. It's like the 3rd Tuesday at 6.
Okay.
I think.
Virtually.
It's on Zoom. It's every month. It's on the Five Hive Facebook with the link to sign up, and you just go to the link. You pick, all the dates are there. You pick the one you want, and I'll spend an hour with you walking through what is foster care, what are the different types of foster caregivers, because there are different types.
Mm-hmm.
If you're specifically interested in adoption, we talk about what adoption looks like in our state. We talk about data, number of kids in care, where the need exists, and then we talk about the licensing process and kind of those requirements. There are requirements for sure because we have to keep our children safe.
Right.
But it's not anything crazy. And the assessment process is a little bit of pain in the butt. It's about a 6-month process. But once you do it once, you're done.
I think that when we do dabble into foster care, I think it would be meaningful, and I feel like I'd be able to do more good by helping like maybe a pregnant teen that's in the foster system.
A lot, yeah.
And help her become a parent and like just a productive human in society.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard. If you don't have that support.
You have some experience to share, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom, you can give it back. You only keep what you have by giving it away anyway, so.
Aww.
Yeah.
We can't do it alone, right?
No.
And I think we all kind of have our own experiences of knowing that people have been there for us. And so, like you said, Sean, we got to give it back.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect way to end.
Yeah.
Oh.
You guys are a pleasure. I wish I could be there to meet you so bad.
Well, we'll see you in December.
Sounds good. I will be there. You know I will. If you liked what you heard today, hit that like button or the subscribe button or whatever button it is that you have.
Just hit it. To continue this conversation with us, join the Skirts Up Show on what is it again?
Well, we have Facebook, we have YouTube,
and Pinterest.
And no, we do not have a Pinterest, but we have Instagram.
You knew what I meant.
Rate and review.
Rate and review.